For 30 years, America loved a man they didn't really know. Jay Leno was a TV star who lived two different lives at the same time, and nobody noticed. Under the bright studio lights, he had a secret world filled with cars, gasoline, and engines. Oh yeah, nobody guessed what was really going on until all the clues came together. In this video, we're going to tell you the complete truth about Jay Leno's two lives. Jay Leno was born in 1950 in a town called New Rochelle in New York. His dad, Angelo Leno, sold insurance, and his family came from Italy. His mom, Catherine Muir, was from Scotland, and she was kind and down-to-earth. Jay had a brother named Patrick, who went to fight in the Vietnam War and later became a lawyer. The family didn't have a lot of money, but they believed working hard was the most important thing. When Jay was growing up, his family lived in Andover, Massachusetts. They had a small house with an old garage, and Jay spent hours and hours playing with cars and fixing things. He loved taking stuff apart just to see how it all worked inside. As he got bigger, he noticed that figuring out how things worked made him feel the same kind of happy as making people laugh. After Jay finished high school, he went to a college in Boston called Emerson College. He decided to study speech therapy and finished school in 1972. While he was living in the college dorms, he started the very first comedy club at his school. During the daytime, he had a job at a car garage near the college. At nighttime, he would go perform comedy at bars and clubs. That's when his habit of living two lives at once really started. In the 1970s, there were lots of small comedy clubs popping up in Boston. Jay would work as a mechanic fixing cars during the day and then run comedy shows at night. He once said, "During the day, I was dirty and covered in car grease. At night, I was surrounded by people laughing." These two different worlds weren't really separate for him. They actually taught him how to work hard and never give up. In 1973, Jay packed up and moved to Los Angeles because he wanted bigger chances to succeed. Los Angeles was the city of movies and TV shows, and hundreds of young performers were moving there to chase their dreams. Jay got a job at a garage in a place called Burbank, and he performed comedy at night at a famous place called the Comedy Store. He barely made enough money to pay his rent, but he kept saving every penny he could and working all the time without taking breaks. After 4 years of performing in comedy clubs, Jay got invited to be on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. On March 2, 1977, he performed on national television for the very first time. His comedy act was short and smooth, and it made people laugh a lot. Johnny Carson really liked him. After that night, Jay became a guest who came back to the show again and again. By the late 1970s, Jay started appearing on smaller TV shows. He wrote jokes for a show called Good Times, and he acted in shows like Laverne and Shirley, One Day at a Time, and Alice. In 1978, he was in two movies called American Hot Wax and Silver Bears. Jay kept growing his comedy career bigger and bigger. He joined another show called Late Night with David Letterman and kept showing up on TV all across the country. His comedy style was quick, had good rhythm, and talked about normal, everyday life. People remembered him as a regular working guy telling stories, not some fancy celebrity. In the 1980s, Jay started filling in for Johnny Carson whenever Johnny needed a short break. His calm way of doing things and his clean reputation with no scandals caught the attention of the people who ran NBC. The TV producers really liked that Jay was so reliable and consistent. He was never late, never canceled shows, and was always professional. When he wasn't on stage, Jay still spent long hours in his small garage in Burbank. He would buy old, rusty cars, fix them up with his own hands, and then sell them. It wasn't just a fun hobby for him, it was a way to practice being patient and disciplined. He once said, "Fixing a car is like writing a joke. You keep working on it until it runs perfectly. Between 1985 and 1988, Jay became a regular guest on weekend comedy shows. Because he was on TV so often, his face became really familiar to people all over America. By 1986, he officially became Carson's backup host, which meant he would take over when Carson wasn't there. From that moment on, NBC started watching how audiences reacted to Jay. From those small comedy stages and nights that smelled like motor oil, Jay Leno was about to enter a time when he wouldn't be just a backup anymore. The bright lights of television were getting ready to shine on him, but behind that big opportunity was a tough competition where only hard work and never giving up could keep him in the race. The golden years on television started on May 25, 1992, when Jay Leno took over from Johnny Carson as the host of The Tonight Show. He stepped onto that stage during a time when NBC was changing from one generation to the next. The show aired live every single night at 11:35 p.m., and it became the most important stage for comedy and conversation in America for the next 20 years. During the first 3 months, Jay had to deal with huge amounts of pressure. The people who had loved Johnny Carson for so long weren't sure about his replacement. Many newspapers back then said NBC was taking a big risk. Jay didn't say anything back to the critics. Instead, he just focused on doing steady shows and slowly winning viewers over with his friendly way of talking, solid timing, and jokes about everyday life that everyone could understand. He worked about 18 hours every single day. In the mornings, he would have meetings about the show. In the afternoons, he would read through scripts. In the evenings, he would tape the show. And at night, he would go perform at comedy clubs all around Los Angeles. At his father's funeral in 1994, Jay said, "You know, it really is lonely at the top. You have no idea, but we'll fight the good fight, Pop." Those words showed how lonely success can feel, even when you're famous. By 1995, the show had become super popular. The Tonight Show with Jay Leno was watched by more than 5 million people every single night, which was more viewers than David Letterman's Late Show had. NBC reported that they were making more than 30% more money from advertisements compared to the years before, which made Jay the most important person at the network. Outside of television, Jay kept a really busy schedule of traveling around to do comedy shows, around 150 performances every year all across the United States, from small stages in Las Vegas to college auditoriums. He once said, "If I'm off stage for a few days, I start to miss the smell of the audience." Every trip he took followed a strict schedule with no time built in for rest. The late 1990s and early 2000s were the golden era of The Tonight Show, a special episode. When the show Cheers ended in 1993, was watched by over 22 million people. The show's 10th anniversary in 2002 attracted nearly 12 million viewers. NBC estimated that they were making more than $30 million in profit every single week. Inside the TV studio, Jay kept working like a craftsman, building something with his hands. He only took 2 days off after his mother's funeral in 1993. The people he worked with said he had no weaknesses, while Jay simply said, "I work, I sleep, then I work again. That's all I do." In 2000, NBC started talking about who would take over the show in the future. They chose Conan O'Brien to be Jay's replacement, and they said Conan would take over after 2009. They announced this decision 8 whole years early to prevent any drama or fighting inside the company. Jay accepted the decision and said briefly at the press conference, "Every show needs a next chapter." On May 29, 2009, Jay hosted his very last episode after 17 years of being the host. The Burbank studio was filled with his co-workers and longtime fans. He closed the show with a simple sentence, "This has been the best job in the world." A few months later, NBC announced that Jay would move to a new show in prime time called The Jay Leno Show. This decision caused a big conflict with Conan O'Brien. But before that fight broke out, Jay had finished his first 20 years in television with a solid reputation and the image of someone who worked tirelessly and never stopped. After almost 20 years of ruling late-night TV, Jay Leno stepped away from the seat that many people called the throne of American television. Everyone thought he would stop working, but Jay started a new journey instead. This time, it wasn't on a stage, but surrounded by the roar of engines underneath the roof of his garage. The transformation beyond the spotlight began on March 31st, 2010, when Jay Leno came back to host The Tonight Show after more than half a year of arguments and fighting between NBC and Conan O'Brien. The decision ended a messy chapter for the TV network and brought back good ratings. Jay kept working on the show until February 6, 2014, when he officially handed the show over to Jimmy Fallon. After his final broadcast in 2014, Jay walked out of NBC's building. A few months later, he started making a show called Jay Leno's Garage, a one-hour documentary special all about cars. People loved the special so much that CNBC decided to sign a deal for a full series in 2015. Jay Leno's Garage ran continuously through 2022, lasting 7 whole seasons. The episodes were filmed at Jay's personal private garage in Burbank. The show mixed together interviews and vehicle tests with celebrity guests like Elon Musk, President Joe Biden, and Jerry Seinfeld. On the show, Jay often said, "Cars are the only thing that make me quiet. When the engine starts, everything else stops." That line became his personal motto. It showed not only his passion for cars, but also his habit of stepping away from all the noise and drama of show business. Jay's car collection is an incredibly rare mechanical treasure. At his place called Big Dog Garage, he owns more than 180 cars and 160 motorcycles with a total value of more than $50 million. Some of his most special cars include a 1994 McLaren F1 that's worth over $20 million, 2 Doble steam cars that used to belong to the famous Howard Hughes, and a 1909 Baker Electric that Jay gave to his wife as a gift. He's also the only person in the world who owns 3 working 1963 Chrysler turbine cars. Every single vehicle in his collection is restored and fixed by hand, documented with detailed technical records, and personally test-driven by Jay himself. Many newspapers describe his garage as a private museum where technology and memories live together. Along with his TV work, Jay writes a column called Motormouth for Popular Mechanics magazine. His articles talk about mechanics, restoring steam engines, testing hybrid cars, and building jet-powered vehicles. His writing style is simple and honest, focused on real experience and technical details. Every week, Jay still does stand-up comedy, around 150 shows every year, constantly traveling all across the United States. The busy schedule surprises a lot of people, but to him, it's just normal routine. He says, "I still do the same thing. Fix cars by day, perform by night. That's what keeps me sharp." In his private life, Jay and his wife Mavis Leno are known for being very quiet about their personal business. They got married in 1980 and never had children. Mavis is active in human rights and women's organizations, and she serves on the board of the Feminist Majority Foundation. Jay simply says, "She's the one who taught me how to be quiet." In 1998, they donated $100,000 to help support women in Afghanistan, and that donation is recorded in the foundation's history. The couple rarely talks about their charity work, but they continue to give money every year to education funds and automobile museums. Even in his 70s, Jay still keeps his usual disciplined schedule, 4 hours of sleep and 16 hours of work every single day. When a reporter asked if he ever felt tired, Jay answered simply, "No, I'm still doing what I love. If I stop, I'll rust like an engine that never runs." When his fame had settled down and his work had reached its peak, the biggest challenges started to show up. A series of accidents and personal crises suddenly pulled Jay Leno off his familiar track. Instead of stepping back, he chose to come back with the same determination that had carried him through half a century of hard work. In November 2022, while Jay was repairing a 1907 white steam car in his garage, a small spark suddenly ignited in the fuel chamber. Jay Leno suffered really bad burns on his face, hands, and chest. Second-degree and third-degree injuries. He was rushed to the Grossman Burn Center in West Hills, where he went through 10 days of intensive medical treatment, including multiple skin grafts where doctors had to replace his burned skin. Pictures of his face wrapped in bandages appeared all over the media. Jay stayed quiet as his health got better. He said in a short interview, "My face was on fire." That simple sentence told people just how serious the accident really was. Doctors confirmed that his quick recovery happened because he was in really strong physical condition and because he had an unshakable determination to get better. Only 2 months later, in January 2023, Jay had another accident while he was riding a vintage motorcycle. A wire that was stretched across the road caused him to lose his balance, and he broke his collarbone and 2 ribs. He ended up at the same hospital, but he refused to cancel his comedy shows. He told reporters, "I cracked a few parts, but the laughter's still intact." By mid-2023, when reporters asked him about all these accidents happening one after another, Jay simply replied, "I grew up in a garage. Accidents are normal." He came back to the stage within just 3 weeks, performing in Las Vegas in front of more than 2,000 people watching. Nobody in the audience could even tell that his face had gone through reconstructive surgery. In early 2024, Jay faced yet another accident while he was filming a car test video in Pennsylvania. He slipped and fell down an 18-meter slope, fracturing his wrist and bruising his face. In a later conversation, he said briefly, "Feeling good? As long as I can work, I'm alive." That dry response was perfectly in character for him. The incident made his fans worried, but Jay never stopped his work. Just 1 week later, he showed up at a vintage car exhibition in California with his arm still wrapped in bandages. A close friend recalled that right after Jay fell, his very first words were, "Is the car okay?" before he even asked for an ambulance. Along with these work-related accidents, 2024 also marked a really deep personal turning point. His wife, Leno, was diagnosed with progressive memory loss. The couple, who usually kept their private life very private, were forced to share this information in Los Angeles court records. On April 1, 2024, the court officially gave Jay legal guardianship over Mavis's financial and medical affairs. In his court filing, he stated clearly that he wanted to make sure every care decision was made with love and absolute safety. After the court hearing, Jay told reporters, "That's what love is, to take care of each other when one can't." According to his attorney, Mavis sometimes doesn't even recognize her own husband anymore. Her doctor's report described advanced dementia that requires full-time guardianship and care. Even so, Jay kept bringing her to small public events, saying that keeping their daily routines normal helped her feel stable and comfortable. By early summer 2024, Jay appeared again in a new episode of Jay Leno's Garage. He was wearing a leather jacket and had his familiar smile on his face as he introduced a restored vintage electric car. Later that year, when the media brought up his string of accidents again, Jay answered briefly, "I don't think I've had trouble. I just fix cars, and sometimes the cars fight back." That remark carried the same dry sense of humor that had defined his comedy style for decades. Doctors confirmed that he made a full recovery. His skin healed well, his bones mended quickly, and his spirit stayed strong. After those harsh years when everything seemed to slow down, Jay Leno still kept his old rhythm going. But as 2025 began, The story was no longer just about surviving. It was about how a man keeps his passion and purpose alive when time has already moved past him. After many difficult years, as 2025 began, Jay Leno turned 75 years old. After 2 years of recovering from injuries and dealing with personal upheaval, he still kept his familiar rhythm going. His comedy tour schedule started in February in Florida and continued through the end of the year with shows in Connecticut, New Jersey, Nevada, and California, nearly 170 performances in total. The venues stayed packed with audiences. Many people in the crowd came just to see the man who had survived 3 major accidents. Jay appeared simply on stage. No special effects, no dramatic lighting. Every show opened the same way. He walked onto the stage, adjusted the microphone, and said, "I just finished fixing a car, and it didn't blow up." Jay Leno's garage continued to do really well online. The 2025 videos focused on electric cars and new technologies. In a test drive clip featuring the Cadillac Celestiq, Jay smiled and said, "I don't buy them all. I just keep the ones that make me happy." His tone was steady and calm, and it still carried his trademark wit and humor. Another episode featured the Ford GT Hybrid, where Jay tested it on the Burbank racetrack. He described in detail the handling, throttle response, and engine sound without any exaggeration or advertisement language. Beneath the video, tens of thousands of comments echoed the same line. "He's not old, he's just continuing." Jay's health stayed amazingly strong. He still only slept 4 hours a night, woke up early, and drank cold water instead of coffee. No alcohol, no cigarettes, no sugar. His personal doctor once said, "He's the only patient I know who never takes a day off." Jay repeated that line on stage as a punchline in his comedy act. His personal wealth was estimated at around $450 million, with his car collection making up about 10 to 15% of that total value. Big Dog Garage in Burbank served as both his home workshop and his main storage place. He spent most of his days there with a small team of mechanics, restoring classic cars one by one. In January 2025, when massive wildfires struck Los Angeles, Jay and a group of friends volunteered to help by driving his vintage fire truck to deliver food and water to rescue teams. He rarely accepts awards or goes to honorary ceremonies. To the media, Jay made it clear, "I don't like standing in front of a camera to get a trophy. I like standing in a garage doorway watching smoke rise from the exhaust." That statement showed his work ethic that hasn't changed since he was young. In another interview, when he was talking about his wife, Jay's eyes got softer. He said, "She's still got the fire. That's what love is." Then he stopped talking for a few seconds before changing the subject back to cars, as if he needed to steady himself emotionally. That brief moment helped many people understand why he still works every single day. At the end of 2025, Jay went to a fundraising event for burn patients in California. It was one of his rare appearances as an honorary guest. His speech was short, without any personal stories, focused only on showing gratitude toward the medical team. He said, "They're the ones who helped me look at my face again and keep smiling." Even with his packed schedule, Jay still makes time for the car community. He hosts small gatherings at his garage, sharing his experience in restoring vintage engines and encouraging young people to pursue careers in technical trades and mechanics. By the end of the year, he stayed in his routine, performing stand-up comedy on weekends, filming videos early in the week, and spending mornings inspecting cars in the garage. After more than half a century in the business, Jay Leno still kept the same simple structure of life. One side belonged to the stage lights and entertainment. The other side belonged to the scent of gasoline and cool steel. After years of hardship and challenges, the two worlds no longer stood apart from each other. They blended into one, creating the portrait of a tireless working man in an ever-changing age of entertainment. If you're inspired by stories of people who live fully with their passion, Just like Jay Leno does, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode.